There we go.
It's coming up.
All right, guys, welcome. This is My Muscle Connection number 11. And today we have Larry Daniels on. The topic's having a positive mental attitude. Larry Daniels is a certified coach from Napoleon Hill, right? Like, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do.
Hey, great. Thank you all. Yeah, my name is Larry Daniels. As Jed said, I'm a certified Napoleon Hill instructor by the Napoleon Hill Foundation. I also do speaking and coaching, teaching. I run a private mastermind alliance. And I'm thankful to be invited here today to talk about the principles of Napoleon Hill and how he can, applying the 17 principles of success can help boost you, help move you forward in whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for getting up so early to do this. What part of where are you from?
I'm in Florida, Central Florida.
How is it down there, man? I've heard it's awesome right now.
It's hot, I will tell you that. But yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So you're 6 hours ahead of us, right? Because I'm from North Carolina and they're 6 hours. I think you guys are in the same time zone as us.
Yeah, so I was just in North Carolina last weekend. So
What part?
Piscataway Forest, North Carolina.
You know where up near Boone?
Like
up in the mountains.
I know where Boone, North Carolina is. Yeah, I think it's just southwest of Boone, North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm from right outside of Boone.
Oh, okay, great.
So, all right. So yes, let's see. All right, so we're here talking about having a positive mental attitude. You're here from certified coach, and a lot of stuff's coming from the book we've been talking about, the Think and Grow Rich book, which I just bought the paperback cover. I've listened to the audio book. I bought the paperback cover because it's been out for so long. It's like $7. I mean, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. Even if you're not a business person, you just need the positive mindset. It can definitely the envisioning. There's a whole sections about this stuff about mindset and like stuff that spirituality coaches talk about, and that kind of blew me away because I'm listening to towards the tail end when it gets in like the science behind the positive mindset and everything. I'm like, this is stuff that like I've heard spiritual coaches talk about envisioning and things like that. So let's see. What do you So when you start coaching people, what is it the basics that you do or you start at with someone new?
Well, the first thing I want to know from somebody is what is it that they want? The problem is, as Napoleon Hill says, that 98 out of every 100 people don't have a definite major purpose in life. They don't know what they want. They know they want something different, but most people do not truly know what they want. And so from that mental attitude of not really knowing what they want, they drift. They move wherever the tide takes them. They go from one opportunity to the next opportunity. And the worst thing that a person can say is that I'll try that. So they'll get involved in something and they'll say, I'll try this. And if it doesn't work, I'll move on to something else. And to me, that's the worst thing. And I've been a victim of that myself. It's the worst thing that you can do is to go into that mindset with, I'm going to try this. If it's not something that literally sets you on fire, then it's probably not what you should be doing in life. But so many people just go from job to job, from opportunity to opportunity, from relationship to the relationship, without actually having a definite major purpose, as Napoleon Hill would call it, or a definite goal in life. And that right there is what stops, the majority of people. They really don't know what they want out of life.
Yeah, we discussed that around week one about definite, having a definite major purpose. And when it comes to, and hearing you, Larry, say it really, from an actual coach affirms, especially, the people listening, is that, when you're competing in bodybuilding, you have to really find out why it is that you're really doing it, and whatever that reason is, it's okay. If you want to get jacked just to get girls, hey, that's fine. That's your thing. If you want to be like me and go try to, compete in the Mr. Olympia, the world championships, you have to figure out what that ultimate purpose is. because when the hardship comes, when life starts hitting you down, that's when that major purpose is going to keep you going. Like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. I got to keep going, especially in bodybuilding. I've learned in my sport, it's the last 4 to 6 weeks that really are the most fucking trying. And I, as a coach and as an athlete, I'm seeing the last 4 to 6 weeks is when you really got to figure, why you're doing this matters. Now, how does having a positive mental attitude actually work along with having that major purpose? Because in the new book I'm already reading called Winning, right? Winning says that winning keeps its hands in its pockets so it doesn't point to the wrong person. That's one of my favorite quotes. Winning will have a party in your honor and then stick you with the bill, because you go for something. Think of how many times Henry Ford fucked up, right? Before he invented the V8. They told him it couldn't be done. They said it could not happen. He said, "Fuck you, motherfuckers." I think maybe not those exact words, but he said, "Hey, it's possible." So how does that positive mental attitude fall into play when the fucking shit is just pounding on you?
It's so funny that when Napoleon Hill was developing this philosophy, the original text was The Law of Success in 16 lessons. So there's actually 16 principles. And it wasn't until Napoleon Hill met W. Clement Stone that they discussed what the most important principle was, and they added it. And W. Clement Stone said the most important principle of this success was having a positive mental attitude. Because if you don't start out with a positive mental attitude, if you don't do everything that you do with a positive mental attitude, it doesn't matter what your definite major purpose is in life. You're going to fail. You have to have a positive mental attitude with whatever you do. I always like to say is how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you have a job and you go in there and you half-ass do your job, then you're probably half-ass doing your relationship, and you're half-assed doing everything else in your life. So if you don't start out with that positive mental attitude or that winning attitude, that I refuse to take defeat attitude, and everything you do, it's going to affect everything you do. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, because from a trainer's perspective, what you just said right there, when I train clients, and when they screw up once, so I catch them doing do one cardio session a day, I catch them doing 2 or 3. And I say, well, that's not a big deal. It's like, well, if you're not listening to me there, where else are you not listening? Why are you not getting results? Where else are you screwing up? Because now me looking at you, I'm like, okay, now I got to dissect everything because I caught this guy's or girl doing something I told them not to do with just this one element. So I definitely get what you're saying there. I also think that that's why you should, as we talked about earlier before we came on here, focus on one thing. Because if you do everything 100% and you spread yourself thin, you're going to burn yourself out. That's why when you talk about focusing on one thing, that's why you got to have that same type of attitude. But I mean, but in life, and life's going to test you. When you get positive mental attitude, life is going to test you. It's going to see if you really think positive about that stuff or not. And you guys have to remember why you're doing this shit.
Absolutely.
What was I going to say? Yeah. And for the listeners, when I say positive mental attitude, I don't want to sit and refer to this flamboyant, you can do it, guys. Come on, we can do this together. We're not talking about that, especially for the majority of listeners, most of us are athletes. I call it the bring it the fuck on attitude. Like, oh, what? My fucking leg broke? Fuck it. I'm going to work around it. You do what I can do. Oh, guess what? I fucking, this happened. You know what? I got this. I'm going to use what I got to get where I need to get to. One thing I heard Eric Thomas say a long time ago, 7 years ago, when I first started bodybuilding, he said, use what you got, because what you got is plenty. And you would really be surprised if you have that attitude, what you can actually get done. Motherfuckers can eat packets of tuna if you know what I mean, dieting, tuna and almonds, if you have to, to get your protein in. So, there is having that positive attitude, I think affects ultimately where you end up in life. And I'm slowly, now that I've been watching, you know, Earl Nightingale, I've been watching him. And what I'm noticing is that people with a shitty fucking attitude end up in shitty fucking places. People with a positive attitude end up in pretty positive fucking places. I think at the end of the day, you get where you want to, you get where you want to be, whether you think so or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, and you're right, Dominic. It's not always about, you know, we all have off days. We all have stuff come into our lives that at some point in time, you know, sets us back. But it's what we do in that moment. You know, I love what you said about, you know, Eric Thomas and you in life, sometimes you get things that are not always on your path. And but what most people don't realize is sometimes you're headed down the wrong path. And I believe you can call it whatever you want. You can call it God, you can call it universal consciousness. If you're not on the right path, the universe will step in and correct it. If you have something major to do in life, if you have something to do of really great importance, life is going to step in. It's going to correct your course. So I was recently watching this show of this lady. This lady's a helicopter pilot, and on this show, she told a little bit about her story. And that's not where she started out. She started out that she was an Olympic snowboarder, you know, and she got a devastating injury, and she was no longer allowed to. She couldn't snowboard anymore. She couldn't compete anymore. So she had a love of flying. So she learned how to fly helicopters. She started working as a tour guide in Alaska. Boom, fast forward 10 years. She owns a tour company that flies, has over 200 helicopters. Right now, she's on a journey. She's literally flying, her and her partner are flying their helicopter around the world. They're taking this helicopter everywhere. So that's what we mean by having a positive mental attitude, because she could have said, you know, I'm an athlete. That's all I can do. I mean, Jed, Dominic, and your all situation, what would you do? Where would you shift to? What is your mental attitude if either one of you sustained a career-ending injury? You know, that's really what we're talking about here. Would you just give up and crawl into a hole somewhere? I'm not saying you have to have a plan B, but I'm saying you have to learn to pivot.
And you know what? And you got to know when it's over too.
Yes.
You know, Kobe, when basketball was over for Kobe, he knew it was over. He went on right in children's books. And then when that was done, he went right into he got an Oscar. You know, and when that was over, and that's the thing, is sometimes when it's not over for people, they'll live their life dreading, oh my God, I could have been so much more. I could have done this. And then they'll waste the next 30 years because some people end up like that in high school. After high school, they didn't win a wrestling tournament or become a state champion. Their whole life now is over, you know, because of that. You know, when something's over, you have to have the emotional freedom to let it go. And that goes inside with positive mental attitude, but I think it's more of emotional freedom and being able to say, hey, time goes by fucking fast. You gotta say, hey, if bodybuilding ended me tomorrow, I broke my knees, it's over. I said my next thing is I'd be on the quest to be a millionaire. I'd be on my journey to make $1 million because I have to be working towards something, or you know, life to me is just, you know, it's meaningless. But a lot of people, like you said, don't have that major purpose. Find that major purpose, and you got to back it with, what is that? A fiery passion. Describe that, Larry.
Burning desire. I mean, and that's what, once again, that's what I think most people misunderstand with this philosophy of success. You know, they're talking about a burning desire. And Jed, we were talking about the movie Think and Grow Rich: The Legacy before we came on, and when you look at Edwin C. Barnes' story in that movie, what he was willing to do in order to accomplish his desire, that's what we talk about. I know Dominic, I don't know about you, Jed, but I know Dominic is a big fan of the Rocky movies. When you go back,
who's not?
When you go back and you know the story behind Sylvester Stallone and
Dude, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that is a burning desire. I mean, the man sold his dog, you know, I mean, he was in such a passionate state about that script, about not only the script, but about actually playing the role Rocky.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that. A lot of movie studios were interested in the script, but they didn't want Sylvester Stallone to play the star in the movie.
They wanted Burt Reynolds at one point, right? They wanted Burt Reynolds, and they offered him $75,000 to not do it, and he held it. He said, "I'm the only one that's going to play Rocky."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another person that I can think of is we talked about Henry Ford earlier. A lot of people don't know Lee Iacocca used to work for Ford Motor Company. He was the head of Ford Motor Company.
Who's Lee Iacocca?
Lee Iacocca. Okay, so Lee Iacocca was a CEO of Ford at one time.
Okay.
And Ford decided they wanted to fire him. So what they did was they came to him. They knew his quality. So they came to Lee Iacocca and they said, "Look, we're going to fire you, but we're going to give you $10 million to never work another day in your life." Right? And so he told them politely,
$10 million, fuck major purpose. Fuck burning desire. You got 10 mil.
Well, they figured, I guess they figured he would beat them.
This is where a burning desire and a definite major purpose comes in. He politely told Ford, or unpolitely told the Ford Motor Company, to take that $10 million and stick it. And then he went over and turned Chrysler around.
Wow.
I mean, Chrysler was on the verge of utter devastation when Lee Iacocca took it over, and he revamped the whole line and created, you know, the Mopar, so to speak, of what it is today. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about a definite major purpose, that, you know, somebody is there. It's okay for definite major purpose to be your money. If that's what your definite major purpose is, money, by all means, that's awesome. But some people, the majority of people, have something that's much more powerful than money that drives them. And Lee Iacocca he wanted to create things. He wanted to prove that he could achieve great success in anything that he did. He could have very easily taken that $10 million and rode off into the sunset and lived happily ever after. But that wasn't in his nature. And that's kind of what we're talking about when it's a burning desire. Napoleon Hill describes it as you must work yourself into a white heat frenzy of desire to possess money or anything it is that you want to possess. Because if you don't, you will never achieve it.
That's like going the extra mile. That's what he refers to about going the extra mile, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, going the extra mile definitely plays into that. Because yes, you have to, because it's like, guys, easily, Domenick, when you approach me, I could easily say, "Hey, look, man, that's 2 a.m. in the morning. I got to wake up in the middle of the night to get up here and be on this podcast with you." No, that's just too much. That's how passionate I am about getting the philosophy of Napoleon Hill's work out there and letting everybody understand that, once again, this is not just a book that you read. This is not a philosophy that you study. And what I would suggest is that you don't stop with Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is an incredible book. I would also say that you need to study Outwitting the Devil.
I'm getting that one next. This is my next book I'm going to read.
I'm writing it down right now.
Outwitting, and if I could just share a couple of minutes about Outwitting the Devil.
Sure.
Outwitting the Devil was written 1 year after Think and Grow Rich. But at the time, due to the climate, Napoleon Hill's wife requested that he not publish it. She was afraid of what would happen because of the subjects that Napoleon Hill talked about in that book: religion, politics, the educational system in this country. So Napoleon Hill's wife asked that he not publish that book while she was alive. Well, and Napoleon Hill agreed. Napoleon Hill died in 1970. Annie Mae did not die until 1984. When when the manuscript was handed over to Charlie Johnson of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, him and his wife read the manuscript, and his wife agreed that this work should never be published. She didn't say in their lifetime, she said it should never be published.
Shit, man, I'm gonna read this. This is like fucking drinking underage, man. You know?
Exactly.
Fuck, I want to do it even more now.
The funny thing is that this book that was written in 1938 was not published until 2012, when Don Green who is now the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. He handed the material over to Sharon Lechter. And for those of you who don't know who Sharon Lechter is, Sharon Lechter used to be Robert Kiyosaki's right-hand person. She co-authored many of the Rich Dad series of books.
Oh, okay.
So the Napoleon Hill Foundation entrusted her with the script to bring it to light, because Don Green and many others thought that this was a publication that needed to be published. And I'm telling you, in my honest opinion, it is the most powerful of all of Napoleon Hill's works. I think everybody should read it.
Yeah, that's definitely on my next list. I'm reading Winning now. After that, I'll check that out.
But as you said, Jed, you were talking about earlier, we talked about how, Henry Ford was definite in what he was doing. He didn't let anything from the outside get in his head. As you saw in the movie and the story that you read in the book, he was determined to develop a V8 motor. And he told his engineers, keep trying, keep going. No matter what, I want it and I'll have it. That was definite. Now John Addison used to be the CEO of Prime America. And he said that one of his favorite quotes is that the majority of people are a mile wide and an inch deep. And I love that quote because it's so true. So many people they have a little bit of knowledge about everything, but they're not all consumed by anything. And so therefore, as we talk, they drift. They go from opportunity to opportunity, from job to job. And that's, one of the principles of Napoleon Hill's philosophy is specialized knowledge.
Yeah.
Find an area and specialize in that. Become the master in that area. And if you become the master in that area, you will write your own ticket. You will create your own destiny.
Now let's talk about his son. I think it was his son. They ended up beating Ferrari in the Le Mans, right? Was that Ford's son or his grandson or whatever? Remember, because you've seen Ford versus Ferrari. Dom, if you have not seen that movie, watch it. That is a good movie.
Yeah, it is. I own it. I never watched it.
Oh, I watched it on my flight back home. It's so good. I didn't think it'd be that good, but he was determined to beat Ferrari in that race, no matter what, to where, that's how they designed the Ford GT, was because they're going to win that race. And he wasn't too big about it until Ferrari insulted him. And then he told those guys, he was like, I don't care how much it costs. I don't care what you got to do. We are winning that race no matter what. You build the car, you let me know what you got to have. And it's really good. They ended up, I think they won like 3 or 4 of those. And the guy, the Shelby and the Cobra, that's where they got those from. Because I think the guy that ran the team, his name was Shelby.
Yeah.
And that's where they got that line from. So, the Ford families had history of when they get their eyes on something, they're going to fucking get it no matter what. This just no's not an answer. And that's, like the guy who sold the insurance in the book, in the Napoleon Hill book. That was how he thought. He's like, I'm not leaving until I sell this insurance.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. You're right, Jed. That's an incredible movie. And Carroll Shelby, as you said, was the one that was heading up that operation. Carroll Shelby was very successful car builder on a smaller level in California. And then he became Shelby became part of Ford America, as they called it back then. And that was it. They had a determination that no matter what, they were going to beat Ferrari. And it was so funny in that race. They actually, if you watch the movie, they actually One of the Fords driven by Carol Shelby, I believe it was Carol Shelby that was driving the car. May have not been. I may have to correct myself on that. But that car was far out of front of the rest of the field, even the other Ford GTs. And they actually asked him to slow down so that all three of the Fords could cross the finish line at the exact same time.
Yeah, that was in the movie. That was in where they were.
Yeah,
because the driver was pissed. He was wanting to win, and they're like, "No, we want a team type thing."
Exactly.
I think he ended up doing it as much as he hated to do it. There, and Shelby told the driver, he's like, "Just do it, man." And they got in an argument about it.
Exactly.
But they were even trying to find loopholes in the rules because remember, instead of changing brake pads, they changed the whole rotor system. And they told him, like, you can't do that. He goes, find me in your stupid little French written book where we can't do that. And they couldn't find it. They say it's not in there. We can. So they changed the whole tire rotor assembly and everything because the brakes would overheat. And that's how they fixed it. And it's just like, wow, these guys want it so bad. They were like finding ways around the rules and finding loopholes. And like, it's cool to see that. And people need to see more stories like that because, you know, we're in a world of freaking sheep now. Nobody knows how to think outside the box. I don't think anybody wants something bad enough. I don't want to say everybody's got this entitled mindset, but they definitely don't think hard enough to want something to where, you know, they'll do whatever it takes. And like you say all the time, Dibs, you got to be a little demented and a little sick because, you know, that's how you start coming up with things you haven't thought of before in order to get what you want. You know,
yeah, you have to be a little crazy. And what I'm starting to notice too is you got to be a lot routine. Not the routine with life, but routine with the doing the right things over and over again. And I mean, these stories are great. You know, these stories are great, but we also think about the time consumed and the learning, the failing, how many Friday nights did fucking Cal or Shelby have to spend in fucking, you know, driving this car and studying and learning, you know, to make the fucking story happen. You know, like when I won my pro card, it was 1,000,000 to 1 shot the way I won it. It would never happens that like that. It was literally 1,000,000 to 1 shot. And you know, you see the award, like everyone tells the story, man, the way he won it was so crazy. It was by technicality. I still won it. Winning's, you know, people don't believe in luck. I don't believe in luck. Winning's winning. But the late nights, the Saturday nights I had to stay home, the times I had to sit and suffer on the couch for hours, I couldn't go out. You know, this is the sacrifices everybody had to make and the routines. Jordan was really big into routines. Michael Jordan, you'll read when you guys read Winning, which I recommend you guys read next. Michael Jordan was game day exactly the same time. Tim Grover knew exactly where Michael Jordan was going to be at, what time he tied his shoes, just in case some life threw some shit at him. He could slightly alter it because he knew the way the rest of his schedule was going to be. You know, you have to be, you know, success is a lot of doing the same boring shit over and over again, man. Like bodybuilding is a lot more than just going to the beach and, you know, taking cool, you know, Instagram selfies. It's a lot of boring shit. And that's where people, I think, get lost is the fact that when Friday night comes, hey, what's today? Thursday? Yeah, I got to, you know what I mean? Friday night comes, I got to be in bed by 8:39 so I can get up to go train because I don't want to mess up my sleep cycle. How many people are willing to make that? How many 24-year-olds are willing to make that sacrifice? A little easier in my 30s now, but how many 24-year-olds with great genetics are willing to make that sacrifice so they can have their story? You can't have the stories if you don't put the fucking work in. You know, these are all daydreams, but winning comes in your fucking nightmares. It's the shit you think about at night when you're sleeping. Am I big enough? Am I lean enough? Did I put enough muscle in the last 2 years? I hope I did. Fuck, man. Shit, dude. I hope Mike can dial me down. You got to think about that stuff. This is the shit that I think about at night. You know, we talk about the cool stories, but I want to talk about the other thing. How many times do you think Cal Shelby would sometimes went to bed at night thinking like, fuck, man, I hope I fucking win this race. I know I'm going to win the race, but fuck, am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Got to be up tomorrow. Got to do that. That's the routine. That is a routine that you need to fucking fall yourself into if you're actually really going to be in the fucking successful.
I don't want to like, what I'm about to say is me complaining or whatnot, but I mean, how many Saturdays do I throw away because I'm sitting here going through diet plans and looking and contacting people and finding out what's going on? Because when somebody says, no matter what I do, I can't drop this weight or I can't get big enough, my name is the first fucking name that comes out and they say, that's the guy you need to go see because he'll fix it. Yeah. Because that's what I want.
And these are the stories that we're trying to create. And, you know, Larry will tell you, you know, how many times these people have fucked up over and over again before they made it right. Right.
Yeah.
That's how you learn.
It's that's the thing. And that's where, you know, persistence comes in. And that is the most, it's being persistent and consistent. It's like you guys, Domenick and Jed, with your training. Okay. It's the consistency. It's the little things that you do day in and day out that get you to where you want to be. And most people are not willing to do that. Most people, they're, you know, as you know, I was told a story a long time ago that most people are just not, they're uncomfortable, but they're just not uncomfortable enough to change. I mean, we live in a country where, not to slight anybody, but where even the poorest among us have a cell phone. We have connection to the world. We have, as Harlan Stonecipher used to say, it's the only place in the world where you can cry about hard times over a $25 steak. You know, so we're not exactly where we want to be, but yet we're comfortable enough that we don't really want to move. And that's where that burning desire comes in. And that's why most people, they have something that they really want to achieve in life, but their mentality is, well, if this doesn't work out, I still got my day job. You know, if this doesn't work out, I still got this to fall back on. And that's, you know, that's where Napoleon Hill talks about burning the ships, talks about, you know, no room for retreat. You know, we have to move forward. And that's where I believe that a few generations ago, that this country had that attitude that we were going to achieve success, we were going to move forward. And all these individuals that we talk about, they had that one thing that they were just not willing to sacrifice. They had that one thing that they wanted to achieve above all else, and that they were going to do it no matter what. But I think as we move forward, that becomes less and less. Fewer and fewer people. Maybe there's just more people in the world. Maybe it's the same 98 out of 100 that Napoleon Hill talked about. Maybe there's just more people in the world, and we see it that way. But you're right. When you look at these stories of these individuals, they were not willing to sacrifice what they wanted. They were willing to stay home, as Grant Cardone says, be obsessed or be average. You know, most people look at obsession as a bad thing. And I tell you what, Domenick, when I hear you talk about everything that you did to keep training during the pandemic, all the sacrifices that you had to make to keep your training on schedule, that inspires me, because once again, most individuals would not be willing to do that. They would not be willing. As long as it came easy, they would keep doing it. But when it came to the point that the gyms were shut down and this was shut down, and you had to think outside the box in order to keep your routine up, the majority of people would have given up right then and there.
This thing about, I don't know why this popped in my head when you talked about that, but imagine if Mission Control wanted to be average during Apollo 13. If they didn't want to stay there late, if they didn't want to work on stuff, they wanted to work 9 to 5 and go home, those guys would have fucking died. That you watch that movie, and that movie is, from what I understand, is pretty damn accurate to what really happened. And because they made all those sacrifices and they made something happen that wasn't supposed to happen, and is now like one of the greatest turning points, one of the greatest probably comeback stories in American history, I would say. Because that was going to be the end of the space program. That was going to be the end of losing. We were going to be the first country to lose men in space. After we had busted our ass to win the space race, we were about to have it thrown back in our face by losing 3 men. And they were like, I'll be goddamn if that happens. So that's
made up mind is a powerful fucking thing, man.
Yeah.
Larry, you remember, I talked about a lot. My ex, she stole 10 grand from me and dropped my credit score. It was just a life kicked me in the nuts. I was on my knees and I was telling you guys that I'm going to get myself the fuck out of this. You know, not only have I almost doubled what I've lost, but in that I built a website. I started my own website, you know, my own business. So that way, just in case something happens, I have my own side hustle. And when I get out of the military, I have my side hustle. It's already started. So, you know, and I believe, actually, I don't know where Napoleon Hill talks about this, the Think and Grow Rich, is when you're at the fucking bottom, you're at life's at kicking you, and you're at the bottom, that's when shit starts to turn around. I can speak about that in bodybuilding. I can talk about that in, I think, life, is that when things are finally, you're just like, what the fuck do I do? And you just keep going. That's when shit happens.
I think I know sometimes I look back and wonder if I've hit that bottom point, but I've had some pretty shitty times in my life. Like I've slept in rat infested floors after a divorce with no money. I've done that. But at the same time, I'm like, if I hadn't hit it, because things are turning around for me, you know, doing all these podcasts and reading this shit it's changing my mindset. Like I'll admit it's fucking changing. Even the really far out there alien based spiritual guys are preaching the same shit. So there's got to be some truth to it, because I watch it from all angles to get every angle of it, because I don't care. Now, either I've hit that point a few times, or I've just determined I'm not going to get that low because I don't want to hit it. So either way, like you know, I don't, if you do, there is a point where you hit that rock bottom. But I think in my case, if I haven't, I would hate to think if I haven't. See, that's the thing. I would hate to think if I had sunk any lower than I have at some points in my life. I don't know if I could do that. So I'm like, I'm not going to get there. So, I mean, I think that's just as effective. Like that's enough to keep me from getting to that point. You know, you understand what I'm saying?
That's a positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
That's good. It relates back to that.
I think what you're, and so true, Jed, and I like the fact that you say that you hit it from all angles, because although I am a certified Napoleon Hill instructor, same thing, I study it all. And it's what encouraged me was that I'm studying, you know, Think and Grow Rich, and Napoleon Hill talks about the law of attraction and Think and Grow Rich. I mean, in 1937, 1908, when he published the law of success, he's talking about law of attraction. Okay. And now you fast forward to today, when Rhonda Byrne came out with The Secret in 2006, I'll be honest with you, it turned me around. Yeah. I had, even though I had read Think and Grow Rich years and years ago, that term law of attraction never jumped out to me.
The law of attraction, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, because I may misunderstand, is you become what you think about.
Exactly.
Is that you become what you think about. That I have a problem with The Secret. I read it twice, and I have a lot of issues with it, because I think it's too rah type shit. It's too, just think about it. I actually got kicked out of a seminar once. I got kicked out of a secret seminar. I used to go to these things, and the secret, they told me, asked me to leave, because they said, everything is here for you. Everything that ever happens at the beginning of time all happened and is here for you. So I raised my hand. I said, so the Jews that died at Auschwitz had to happen for me? So I should not be mad about that? No, that's not what they're saying. I'm like, so you're saying the people in China need to starve so I can get a car? Like, it didn't make sense. Like, shut the fuck up. Like Napoleon Hill brings out a great model of success. You know, use this. The Secret just says, well, just think about it and you'll get it. I'm like, fuck that. There's more involved.
I had somebody suggest me to watch it, and she was a very successful person. And I watched it and I'm like, okay. And I agree. Like, if you just don't think it's going to magically pop out of thin air, but at the same time, if I start thinking about wanting these things, I'm going to start focusing on it. I'm going to start working towards it, and all that's going to so I'm already a hard worker. So for me to think about it, it's initially going to get the car started for me to get going. But
if it works for you, you know how I am. If it works for you and you go for it. I'm just saying, me personally, it wasn't my flavor. I'm like, I like having models of something to go off.
No, I do too. And I'm with you. You have to be more realistic than that. but all it did, it didn't get me where I am now, but it got that initial spark going of, okay, I need to start changing how I think about shit.
Jed, you're absolutely right. And that's actually where I was going with my point on that, is that The Secret to me was like an elementary education in the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And that's what it did for me. When I first, and I have an amazing story about it, I won't share now, but when I first watched The Secret, it was like a light bulb went on. And see, unlike most people who watched The Secret and said, okay, I started taking action steps. One of the first things that I did was I wrote down everybody that appeared in The Secret. This is 2006. We're in 2021 now. I started searching out each one of those individuals, buying their books and reading their books.
Oh shit.
The other thing that I did is in The Secret, in the very beginning, there are 2 pages of a book that flash on the screen. They never mention in The Secret the name of those 2 books. I paused it, took some words off of those screen and put it into Google and came up with the 2 books. One of the books was The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, which is actually what The Secret claims to be based upon. It is. The other one was a book by Elizabeth Town. This is what I talk about, going the extra mile and a burning desire. I had a burning desire for knowledge. So the other book was a book written by a lady in the late 1800s called Elizabeth Town. And it was called The Life Power and How to Use It. And this book, I tell you how far I went. I started searching for this book. I couldn't find it. So I actually contacted the publisher and found out that this book by Elizabeth Town was a print-on-demand book. And if I would send them a check, they would print me as many copies of the book as I wanted, and they would mail them to me. So this is what I'm saying, Domenick, about a burning desire. The Secret lit a spark in me that made me start searching out all these teachers, Bob Proctor, all these individuals on there. What most people don't know is that a lot of The Secret was based on what they call the teachings of Abraham. Have either one of you heard of Esther and Jerry Hicks?
No.
Esther and Jerry Hicks have been teaching what they call the teachings of the Abraham since the early 80s. And the teachings of Abraham, actually Rhonda Byrne actually went on a law of attraction cruise put on by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And she interviewed Esther and Jerry Hicks. And if you search it on Google, the deleted footage from The Secret is on YouTube. Esther and Jerry Hicks were interviewed to be in The Secret. But due to, I guess you could call it creative differences there's actually another term for it, but I can't think of it right at the moment. But Esther and Jerry Hicks were cut from the film because they didn't want to give away the licensing to their material for free, because I pretty much think that everybody in The Secret donated what they were doing in order to help propel themselves. And I guess Esther and Jerry Hicks weren't really wanting to give away their material for free, so to speak, I guess. I'm not really sure, but they were cut out from The Secret. So I received, almost by what some people would call crazy circumstances, a miracle, anything, I received a CD that had the introduction to the teachings of Abraham on it. And that just totally blew my mind. So what I'm saying is that I understand most people, The Secret, no, you can't just, there has to be inspired action behind it. There has to be something that you have to do. So, but for the majority of the world, it was like a wake-up call for so many people, including myself, where I started, it was something that I'd never really heard of before. And because I'd never really heard of it before, I started seeking more knowledge. I started reading like a madman. And to this day, you know, I bet you I've amassed a library of over 500 books, not on every subject in the world, but 500 books on spirituality, the mind, law of attraction, success.
And you would say, you would say that having a positive mental attitude would probably be I would say number one. But yes. I mean, if you were to give away one fucking tool right now to someone watching and say, hey, you do this, you know, and I hate saying it because everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different journey. You know, there's one, but I don't want to say one step. I hate that. Here's one step, one thing, one tool you can use. You know, last time we had Akira give his emotional tool to control emotional intelligence. What is one tool you can give somebody? Say, hey, if you throw this into your daily routine, you're gonna get some better successes.
The number one thing you have to do is decide what you want. Mm-hmm. You have to really, really decide what it is that you want. Then the tool that I would say is, after you decide what you want, the one tool that you need to have is a mastermind alliance.
Yeah.
You need to surround yourself with people who are doing the same thing that you're doing. They've already achieved a certain level of success in what you're doing. And you need to become a part. You need to create a mastermind alliance with these people to help you move forward.
There's a lot of masterminds for people watching right now. You're probably like, what the fuck's a mastermind alliance? To keep it in layman's terms, it's a bunch of people doing the same shit you're doing. And you talk about how y'all can do it better. Me and Larry, exactly. We every Monday at 2:00 Hawaii time, we do our mastermind. We talk about, you know, what we accomplished this week, one win, and then we talk about a topic, usually how to think and grow rich, and that's how we start that's how our week starts. And that's to me, that's always a great start to the week. We've been doing this for almost a year together with Larry. And there's other masterminds, and believe it or not, the more I learned about it, there's bodybuilding masterminds. There's this year in a way is a mastermind. You know, we're just sitting here on a Thursday night talking about the tools and ways to be successful as athletes, as be successful as trainers. Whatever it is that you're doing, find yourself a mastermind, and every week meet with these people, talk about, hey, what are we doing? What do we accomplish? And where are we going? This is very important. In the military, we call that quarters, but you know.
But really, Domenick, I mean, if you can't truly decide on what you want, the rest of this philosophy really doesn't make sense. If you can't make that decision on what you truly want in life, and see, the thing is that we've been taught to want money is a bad thing. You know, we've been taught money is the root of all evil. That's what's been drilled into most of our heads our entire life. There's a gentleman that passed away back in 2009 that I absolutely adore, is a gentleman named Reverend Ike. And Reverend Ike would always say the lack of money is the root of all evil. Because when you don't have money to put food on your table, when you don't have money to pay the rent, when you don't have money to survive on, a man can get pretty evil.
Yeah.
And he amassed an amazing fortune in his lifetime by helping other people. And a lot of people, but what I loved about this individual is he never apologized for having money, never apologized for it. Matter of fact, he used to have what they call a boutonniere. He used to have a boutonniere made of $100 bills that he would wear, you know, and he grew up, if you knew his story, he grew up dirt poor. He said that the school lunch was 7 cents a day, and his mother did not have 7 cents a day for him to get a hot lunch at school. You know, so find out what it is. You got to spend some time with this. What is it that you truly want? What is it that you truly desire? And if money is the answer, that's fine. But be definite about that amount of money. As Napoleon Hill says, be definite about that amount of money. Write it out.
If your goal is not money, you know, the latter, you taught me this actually over a year ago, and you said, because I was like, yeah, there's no money in bodybuilding. There's no money in bodybuilding. You're like, there's 7 billion people in the world. If every single person knows Domenick DiBenedetto, IFBB Pro, money is going to show up. If every single person in the world knows my name, may not be possible, but the idea is that you know everybody knows who Mr. Olympia is, everybody who Arnold is, everybody knows heard of Ronnie Coleman. You know, if I follow that dream. You know, I'm doing 3 shows this year, 3 IFBB shows. I win all 3 of those shows. Somebody's going to be ringing my doorbell. You know, somebody's going to be like, hey, yeah, how you doing? You know, and that's where the money is sometimes in following your passion. It doesn't have to be chase the dollar. The dollar will come to you if you chase that goal, that dream. You know, like my coach Mike. You know, I'm hoping that when I win my shows, people are like, who coaches you? I'm like, oh, Mike Kawasaki out of Hawaii. I think his doorbell is going to be ringing a lot too. You know, I think that's where a lot of it comes from. It's that burning passion of putting all your effort into something. And that person, I giving all my effort into bodybuilding and, you know, fucking sneaking off the ship to go work out and shit. You know, it's all going to pay off in the end. And you have to really believe it. You have to believe it with that positive mental attitude. I believe it. There's not a doubt in my mind.
What I tell you about that, Dom, about everybody knows who you are and half of them buy a $1 workout plan you put out. You're fucking rich as shit.
And
build a following.
And if you do the research on it, you know, which is what Domenick, not to insult you, but some of the people you just named off, I have no idea who they are. But did that affect? I'm not in that circle. You know, I'm not in that circle.
Right.
But are they still wealthy? Are they still? Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Yes, the goal. The goal, I told you, Domenick, is to get 7 billion people on this planet to know who you are. That's the goal. But, you know, realize that if you fall short of that by 99.9999%, you're still going to have more money than you can ever spend in your lifetime. Because if you look at individuals out here and find out what slither of the population actually know who they are and know what they do and support them, they still have more money and they know what to do with.
Word of mouth is always the best. Advertising is the best, especially on this island. In Hawaii, they call it coconut wireless. You know, I mean, I've every once in a while I'll get somebody off a Yelp page, but most of the time, and Mike's the same way. We get people because people talk, because people know who we are. So that's a very good point. There was something I wanted to bring up. I cannot remember. Shoot. When you were talking about when people don't have money and they do bad things, it reminded me of the John DeLorean story where he was determined to build that car, but he ran out of money. So he was willing to do a Coke deal in order to make the money to keep his workers up. And that's what got him busted. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That was if you guys haven't watched, it's on Netflix. It's a good story. I'm still determined one of these days to have one of those fucking cars, Mr. Fusion on it and all.
1.21 gigawatts. That fucking car.
That's it. At 88, you're gonna see.
I've seen only one of those cars in my life, and it's in Back to the Future.
I've seen 3. I've seen 2 on this island. And when I was a kid, the guy in Alaska, the guy down the road had one, and us being kids, were like, "Oh my god, he's got a time machine."
1.21 gigawatts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was in the 80s. So this dude bought this DeLorean new, and he was like, we go down there and look at it and think it was all badass and shit. But one of these days, I want to be able to have one of those cars, man. I love those cars. Those things were designed to be a sports car that lasted 25, 30 years without having to sell it, you know, because it's made out of stainless steel.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Those things are awesome. That's why it goes through time, because if you can get it up to 88, because it's made out of stainless steel, it's probably heavy. Man, we are so glad, Larry, you came on today. This has probably been one of the best episodes we've had in a while. And we're coming up on the hour mark. I know it's early over there, so we'll let you get back to bed or whatever you got planned for the day. Guys, listen to this. I mean, this all relates across the board. I mean, I know we've been talking a lot of different stories about cars and money and businessmen and stuff, but it's the same shit when it comes to want to lose weight, bodybuilding, all that stuff. And actually, in my closed groups on Facebook, I'm going to start applying some of these stories and stuff to them to give them an example of what people have to do in order to be above average or be great. And
it's
honestly,
about building your story, man. You know, Larry, you know, all the stories you told us tonight, I hope that, the athletes listening to this, they can say, fuck yeah, that could be me. I can build this engine. I can win this championship. And that was a message we wanted to get across. That's what we want for you, for the people watching. You guys went in and say, hey, just a simple mind muscle connection, man. You guys talk about that shit. When you guys see us, we know we're doing our job. So Larry, hey, thanks again for waking up. You definitely reached out to someone today, man. So,
you're welcome. And for those of you out here, just in closing, if you don't want to read the book, listen to the audiobook. If you don't want to listen to the audiobook, watch the movie. Watch the movie, but do something to start putting this philosophy to work for you. And I appreciate you guys, Jed, Dominic. Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, see you on Monday, Larry.
Hold on. Before we go, I used to think this shit was stupid. I expect, fuck it, I'll just work and I'll be fine. And when I finally stopped being a stubborn bastard and reading this shit, everything's starting to fucking turn around. If it's not turning around, at least I'm thinking about a more positive aspect, and it's bound to fucking turn around. So this shit, the bunches of people not been successful off this because it's a fucking fluke. So you guys need to, stop your sob stories and get your ass off the couch and start getting into this material. The Tim Grover, Napoleon Hill, all that stuff matters. All of it helps. It comes from different angles. Like any time that I need to rethink how I need to train people and get fired back up, I can turn on that Tim Grover audiobook at any given point, and within 10 minutes, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to go do my fucking job right now.
Yep.
So the guys, start looking into this stuff because it's definitely going to give you a better outlook on life and put you in the right direction. Larry, I hope we can have you on some other time in the future. This has been really great. And Dibs, we'll be back next Thursday with something else for everybody. Thanks, guys, for watching.
We'll be on our next topic. So, thanks for watching. Larry, thank you again.
Like, subscribe, share this shit with everybody. Give us feedback. We listen to everything.